So in the last episode, we made our way halfway through this 2020 off-season and made our way up to the 2020 NBA draft, and we stopped there. But today is the day that we find out who will become the next Louisville Badger. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 20 of the Louisville Badgers. And today, yes, it is time. We are making our way into the 2020 NBA draft. And I'm not going to bore you guys with some long intro about how excited I am for the draft and all that. We're going to just jump right into this thing. What I plan to do is show you guys all the picks in the first round up until the point where we get to our second pick of the first round, which I think is pick number 22 overall. And then after that, I'll also show you our pick in the second round. But for the sake of time, I'm going to cut out all the other stuff, from the, late first round all the way through the end of the second round. And then I'll give you guys a recap when it's all over so you guys can see who was drafted to which team. I also do want to say real quick before we get started, if your hashtag ad player is part of this draft class but does not get drafted, I am going to reclassify them to the 2021 draft class unless they are offered a really good deal in free agency or I feel like they might get a lot of playing time. But anyway, now it is time to make our way into the 2020 draft, and here we go with Commissioner Adam Silver. Welcome to the 2020 NBA draft. Now, we know that the Vancouver Grizzlies are first on the clock, and I have a hunch that I know who they're going to take. It would be weird to me if they didn't go for either James Wiseman or Anthony Edwards. Fingers crossed that they don't go Anthony Edwards. I guess it's possible they could go Isaiah Stewart or Jaden McDaniels. But the most likely choice here, I would think, would be James Wiseman. So anyway, let's see what they decide. And oh my goodness. So the Vancouver Grizzlies, in their first year back in Vancouver, shocked the world in the 2020 draft, and they go with Isaiah Stewart. Let me just tell you. Now, first of all, I'm going to preface this by saying that they have Jonas Valanciunas, okay? So that could be part of their decision-making here. And I'm guessing that's probably what it is. However, man, this is a really surprise pick here for me. I would have thought James Wiseman would be the obvious guy to go with. But if we're being 100% honest, this is literally perfect for us because now that means that depending on what the Dallas Mavericks choose to do, we get either Anthony Edwards or James Wiseman because they can't pick them both. Okay, so that means things are looking really good for us. It's difficult for me to imagine a scenario where the Mavericks also pass on Wiseman. But here we go. Let's see what they do. They're on the clock now, and they do go with the 7'1" big man out of Memphis, James Wiseman. He would have been a really awesome pickup for us because he's just one hell of a rebounder, and he does so many other things well. He's just a big-bodied, athletic guy. He would have been a really awesome pickup for us. However, you guys know what that means now. James Wiseman to the Mavericks, Isaiah Stewart to the Vancouver Grizzlies. So the guy that we really kind of were hoping to get our hands on, Anthony Edwards, he's going to be there for us. Let's see what they say about Wiseman. One of the best rebounding players we have seen in years. Wow, yeah, see that? He would have really helped us. 13.3 rebounds per game last season at Memphis. Tops in the nation. That would have been deadly on our team because we are lacking rebounding, and that's really one of the main things, one of the only things that we're lacking at this point. Because we have a lot of guys who can score the ball, especially from the perimeter. A guy like Wiseman would have been awesome. However, we got the number 3 pick in the draft. So it's time to go and take a look. We got 20 trade offers. We're not even going to look at those. We don't care about them. Anthony Edwards here on the board. Jaden McDaniels, I got to say, he would be an awesome fit on this team. 6'9" with a 7'2" wingspan. He's a little bit on the thin side at 187. But I'm telling you, I mean, look at this. His Draft Express rank, number 2 overall. 2K rank, number 2 overall. We know that Wiseman was basically the number 1, consensus number 1 across the board. But, man, I'm telling you, Jaden McDaniels would be awesome on this team. But it's really almost impossible to bet against a guy like Anthony Edwards, especially when we need our shooting guard of the future. So, boys, this is our guy right here. Anthony Edwards, do you want to draft this player? Absolutely. Mr. Edwards, welcome to the team. 6'4" shooting guard out of Georgia. 3rd pick in the draft. Anthony Edwards is coming to Louisville. So next up on the clock are the Charlotte Hornets. Let's see what route they go. I feel like I have a hunch I know what they're going to do here, and they did exactly what I thought. Jaden McDaniels, how do you pass up a guy like that? Like I said, I mean, To be able to have him would have been awesome, but it's really tough to pass up a guy like Anthony Edwards. I don't think, again, like I said, it's tough to go wrong here, just like last year with the number 2 overall pick. It's really tough to go wrong between Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. However, Jaden McDaniels, the number 2 prospect in the country, goes to the Charlotte Hornets, and then that means that the Chicago Bulls are next up on the clock with the 5th overall pick. My hunch is that they go point guard, and they absolutely do go point guard with quite possibly a guy who we could look back in 5 years from now and say may have been the best player in the draft, if we're being honest. Jalen Lecque, tons of potential, 6'4" point guard out of Oregon. This guy was just 100% built for the game of basketball. He does everything very, very well, and he's got potential just through the roof. And I really see this guy going far in the NBA. Next up, number 6, we got the Sacramento Kings on the clock now, and they go, and so, okay, this is a little bit of a reach here. However, Johnny Uzang, one of the best small forwards in this draft class, 6'7", small forward out of Kentucky. He shoots the 3 like you wouldn't believe. I mean, this guy has just a wet shot on him, so I can see why the Kings would think that this is a guy that would be a good fit on their team. It's a position of need for them. They've got De'Aaron Fox. They've got good big men. I think that he's going to fit really well in Sacramento. Next up, we got the 76ers at the 7th spot. Let's see who they go for. And they go with R.J. Hampton. So I feel like this is a pick here for the Sixers that is like, all right, let's go with the best available guy on the board right now and maybe go with the guy who's got the most potential. R.J. Hampton is one of those guys where I feel like we could also look back in 5 years from now and be like, okay, there were, 7 or 8 guys drafted before R.J. Hampton. Who are they? Where are they now? He's got a lot of potential as well, man. Next up, we got the Utah Jazz on the clock. Cole Anthony is still on the board for them. Let's see who they go with, and they go with LaMelo Ball. So they did need a point guard, and man, I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of hype surrounding this guy. Everybody knows who this is. I don't have to do any explaining. I think that he's going to end up being a good fit if he pans out in Utah. I think that could end up being a really, really big problem for the rest of the league. So next up, you got the Washington Wizards on the clock with the 9th overall pick. Let's see who they go for, and they go for Vernon Carey. Okay, so I know it was kind of a pipe dream to think that Vernon Carey might fall to us with that 2nd pick in the 1st round. But man, it would have been really cool if he did. Really, really awesome pickup here for the Washington Wizards. This is another situation where I feel like he fits perfectly. Vernon Carey, I think, would be a great fit there. Next up, you got the LA Clippers on the clock with the 10th pick. And they go with the shooting guard out of Villanova, 6'5", Brian Antoine. And a lot of you guys were saying that this was the guy that I should go for. I don't know if you meant with that 3rd overall pick or if you meant with, our 22nd overall pick. At 22, he would be a guy I would certainly have thought about taking. We've got the newly relocated Seattle Sonics on the clock, and let's see who they go with, and they go with Cole Anthony. Okay, so they've got their point guard of the future now. Once again, we all know who this guy is, son of Greg Anthony. I cannot believe he was actually still on the board here at 11. He was a guy that I thought was a consensus top 5 pick, but there was a lot of teams that just felt like, I guess, that there was other point guards out there that were better fit. And this is a guy that I think is going to be embraced by that city. He's going to be embraced by that team. I think it's a great fit for them. So next up, we got the Detroit Pistons on the clock with the 12th overall pick. And they go with their point guard of the future, Markel Bennett, 6'6" point guard out of Georgetown. Awesome, awesome pick here for them. I think that they needed a new point guard, especially with Mike Conley. I don't know if they've worked out a new contract with him yet or not. And he's getting up there in age as well. So a new point guard is definitely a good thing for them. Next up, we got the Miami Heat, and they go with Aaron King. So the 6'7" shooting guard out of Purdue. Good pickup here for them. Possibly the Dwayne Wade replacement. Who knows? So, they definitely are going to need a shooting guard of the future. You see there, he's got a 44-inch vertical. That's ridiculous. So this guy is super athletic. Next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks on the clock. Let's see what direction they go. And they go with Scotty Lewis. Okay, so an awesome, awesome pickup here. I feel like I keep saying that, man, but this is a really, really stacked draft class. I got to say, there's going to be guys up and down this 1st round that are just going to be like, really high potential players. So Scotty Lewis, the 6'6" shooting guard out of Florida, another guy who just is incredible. I feel like he could be like a DeMar DeRozan type. He's got an incredible jump shot, great from the mid-range. I think that he's a guy that's going to fit great in Atlanta. It seems like they're trying to build a very offensive-oriented team that comes out and hits you really quick and hits you hard, and I think he fits that mold perfectly. Next up, we got the Portland Trail Blazers on the clock at 15, and they go with Deni Avdija out of Israel. This is definitely a guy who I was really, really hoping would slide to us at 22, but he doesn't. Next up, the 76ers again, and they go with Jacob Thornton, 6'5" shooting guard out of St. John's. Looks like it could be a J.J. Redick replacement to me. Really good pickup for the Sixers. Next up, we got the Phoenix Suns on the clock with the 17th overall pick, and they go with the 6'9" power forward out of Lithuania, Mr. Danis Petrauskas. Good four-man to go with DeAndre Ayton down there in the low post. Next up, we got the New Orleans Pelicans on the clock. They go with the shooting guard out of Arizona, 6'5" guy, Josh Green. Another extremely, extremely talented prospect who could have easily been a lottery pick. Next up, you got the Denver Nuggets at 19 overall, and they go with a shooting guard as well, the 6'6" guy out of Ohio State, Cassius Stanley. So now that gives them, if Jamal Murray returns, two interchangeable combo guards that are really, really good at scoring the ball. So next up, you got the New Orleans Pelicans, who are on the clock once again, 2 picks later. And with the 20th overall pick, they go with the point guard Nico Mannion, 6'3" guy out of Arizona. So they got the Arizona guy in Josh Green and the ultra talented Nico Mannion out of Arizona as well. I don't know why it says Marquette down there. Must be a glitch in the game. But he did, in fact, go to Arizona with Josh Green. So now both of those guys end up in New Orleans on the same team at the 1 and the 2. That is going to be a really, really good 1-2 punch. I feel like Nico kind of slid in this draft a little bit. I was thinking he'd be more closer to like top 10, but he ends up going 20 overall to New Orleans. Next up, you got the Cleveland Cavaliers right before we pick at 22. Cleveland at 21, and let's see where they go. And they go with the 6'8" power forward out of Florida, Mr. CJ Walker. I don't know a whole lot about this guy, so I'll do some research on him. However, hopefully this will be a pretty good pickup for the Cavs. They definitely are going to need it. And now, that brings up our pick here. At 22 overall, the pick that we got from the Indiana Pacers. And there are two guys that I have not seen go off the board yet. I'm going to come back and tell you guys about those guys in a second, but I've got to pause this video because I got a little bit of scouting to do because I did not expect these two guys to actually be here when we picked at 22. So I will be right back with our decision. So I was, in fact, remembering correctly. The two guys that I thought were still on the board were, in fact, on the board, and that was Precious Achiuwa and Khalil Whitney. And as you guys can see, I decided to go with Khalil Whitney from Kentucky with that number 22 overall pick, 6'7", small forward. This is a guy who I think had top 10 talent. Should have easily been a lottery pick, but he slides to us at 22 overall, and I could not be happier with this pick. This is a guy that I've done plenty of research on. He is a perfect fit for our team. He is a mid-range assassin. He's got a ridiculous turnaround jumper. He's athletic. He plays above the rim, and he can even play in the post, almost like he was a center naturally. I'm so hyped that this guy was able to fall to us at 22. I think it's a perfect pickup for the Badgers, but let's move on. I am going to skip to our next pick in a second, but I do want to take a quick look and see who the Golden State Warriors pick up because I am kind of curious. So they're on the clock with the 23rd overall pick, and look at that. It is very, very fitting that they would go with Precious Achiuwa, the other guy that we were really debating on picking up with that 22nd overall pick. I didn't think he would slide a whole lot further than, the mid-20s, but this is an awesome pickup for the Warriors because he's another guy that was kind of a consensus lottery pick. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to our next pick, which is going to be in the beginning of the second round, but I am going to go ahead and recap the entire draft for you guys right after we're finished making our next pick. So as you can see, we are on the clock here in the second round with the 36th overall pick. And there's a guy on the board still. This might be a little bit of a controversial pick to you guys, and I really do want to hear you guys' honest opinion on this one. But we're going to pull the trigger, and we are going to go with the name on this one and see if we might be able to develop this guy into what his actual potential is. We're going to go with the 6'10" power forward out of UCLA, Mr. Sharif O'Neal. Everybody knows him. He's the son of Shaquille O'Neal. And as I said, for the most part, we're making this pick for the name. However, there is a possibility that Sharif could develop into a very, very solid 4, or maybe even with his athleticism, a wing in the NBA. Because the guy that I really wanted, which was Trendon Watford with this pick, ended up going all the way to one pick before ours to those damn Indiana Pacers. They took him with the 35th overall pick. We had the 36th overall pick. So, like I said, Sharif O'Neal was the guy that I was willing to gamble on with this one. So anyway, that's our last pick in the draft, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to recap the entire draft for you guys so that you guys can see where everybody went. You can see if and where your hashtag ad players were drafted, which team took them, and then after that we can dive headfirst right on into free agency, but let's recap it right now for you. So here is the entire draft, first and second round. You guys already saw most of the first round already, but I just wanted to give you guys a chance to stop it, pause the video, take a look at the rest of the draft. If you guys had a hashtag ad player in this draft class, take a look, see if you see their name here. Now, if you do not see your hashtag ad player's name, there is a very good chance that he may have become an undrafted free agent and picked up by an NBA team. However, before I reveal who was picked up by NBA teams, I do want to give you guys a chance, if you don't see your player on the list, to at least let me know if you want me to reclassify you to 2021 or if you would like to stay on the team that picked you up, because I did look through the free agency pool and I did not see more than like a couple of the hashtag ad players on there. So that means that there were NBA teams that were interested in you guys, but let me know if you don't see your name on the list if you'd like me to reclassify you, or if you'd like to stay with an NBA team and then I'll reveal that NBA team to you in the next episode. So I feel like we had a really, really good draft, and I feel like everything went our way. We got 3 awesome guys. Of course, we decided to sign all 3 of them. The crown jewel of the bunch, though, being Anthony Edwards. Then, of course, we got Khalil Whitney, which was our other first-round pick that we got from the Pacers. And then, of course, in the second round, we picked up Mr. Sharif O'Neal himself. So like I said earlier, man, I cannot tell you guys how lucky we got that the Grizzlies decided to go with Isaiah Stewart first overall, leaving us to draft who could end up being the best player of this class in Anthony Edwards. Some of the rankings actually had him first in this class overall, so our lucky stars were shining bright on us on draft night. So now we're going to move into a part of the offseason that's probably just as important as the draft, if not more important, and that is free agency. But first, let's take a look at our pending options. So, of course, Jaren Jackson Jr., he's going nowhere. Monty Morris, that's a pretty friendly contract, so I think we're going to hang on to him. I really like Avery Bradley a lot, especially for his defense. We just brought in a guy in Anthony Edwards who plays great defense as well. I feel like we'll have a really good defensive team if we were to bring back Bradley as well. So I think I want to bring him back as well. Horde, we're gonna go ahead and renounce him. We're gonna decline that option, and we're absolutely bringing back Darius Baisley 100%, even though he is kind of pretty pissed off at us at the moment for being in the G League for so long last year. But he's one of our, one of the guys who I think has a lot, and I mean a lot of potential on this team. So we'll move on past this. And now we're going to take a look at the entire league and see who accepted or declined the team or player options. So let's take a look here. So Anthony Davis, right off the bat, he declines his $28.75 million option that he had with the Celtics, so he's going to be a free agent. Doncic, the team accepted his, obviously. Mitchell, Tatum. We'll just kind of go down the list here and see if anyone else declined a team or player option. All right, Bjelica will be a free agent. Ersan Ilyasova will be a free agent. And Corey Joseph, Luke Kennard. We're starting to get into the area where we don't care too much about these guys. DJ Wilson, Justin Jackson, Tony Bradley, Yabusele, Isaac. Okay, let's see here. PJ Tucker. Yeah, all right, so we'll go on past this. And now that brings us to our qualifying offers, which we have none, so we can go on past that, and we'll go right in to the moratorium period. So we're in day 1, and we've got 3 offers per day in this 3-day period. All right, so here we go, straight into the moratorium period. And, of course, as you can see, the top free agents are Anthony Davis, Ben Simmons, Pascal Siakam, Buddy Hield, Jamal Murray, guys like that. Now, a lot of these guys are restricted. Of course, Anthony Davis is not restricted. However, I think it would be tough to get him. My guess is that he's going to sign somewhere that was like a preferred destination for him. So we're not even going to put ourselves through that. Ben Simmons would be an awesome, awesome player to have on this team, but as far as system match goes, he doesn't match our system one bit. So I think what we're going to do, even though I think it's going to be really hard to get him, is we're going to throw an offer at Pascal Siakam, because to have him at the 4 and Jaren Jackson at the 5, man, our team would start looking really competitive at that point. So let's throw something at him that might look interesting and at least, do our due diligence here and try to at least make an attempt. So we'll throw 105 at him, and we'll give him a player option, and we'll offer that. Now let's go down the list here. Jamal Murray would be a cool pickup, but we already got Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards as our backcourt of the future. Of course, we could try to pick up Jamal Murray and see if maybe we could, start grooming Anthony Edwards this season and see how that works. That's something I'm not 100% sure about, though. I don't know if that's, an ideal situation for us. A lot of you guys have expressed interest in having me pick up a guy like Brandon Ingram. I don't really know, how great of an idea that would be. I mean, Ingram is injury prone. Even in the game, he does have, some durability issues. He is only 22 years old, though, man. He's got a lot of potential. We'll come back to that one. Hassan Whiteside is getting up there in age. Otherwise, I would probably try to throw some money at him. However, Domantas Sabonis, this guy is a guy that I've been eyeing up ever since I realized he was going to be a restricted free agent, this coming free agency. And, it would be awesome to be able to get a guy like this on the team. He's got the qualifying offer from Indiana, but we're going to see if we can try to throw enough at him to where they will not match it. So first off, I want a team option for sure, but we're going to throw something like this at him. All right, so that's almost $20 million a year. I like to think he'd be interested in that for sure, and he is. He's at least interested. Going down the list here, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is another guy who would be a really, really cool pickup. He's also restricted, but he fits our system very, very well. He's very athletic. He's got a ton of potential. He can shoot. He can defend. I mean, this guy I think would be a really ideal fit for us. I think that what I'll do if Jaylen Brown gets matched or he doesn't accept, I think what I'll do is move on to a guy like Joe Harris and maybe make him an offer, because he would be a nice veteran presence for us. And the guy is like legit one of the best three-point shooters in the league, so he'd be awesome to have on the team. So I'm going to use my last offer for day one on Jaylen Brown. I think we'll give him a 3-year deal with a team option at the end of it, but we'll kind of toss a little bit more money at him. Remember, we've got plenty of cap to work with, so filling out our team here and getting some really good players to make us competitive is a good idea. So we'll throw him an offer as well, and then we'll move forward past this first day. All right, so there we go. Look at that. So we got Sabonis to at least agree verbally. We know that that's not a guarantee yet. However, I do have the contract negotiations set a little higher, in the difficulty. You guys saw that in the settings a couple episodes ago. I do that just for, realism purposes. So for that reason, it looks like we're probably not going to be getting Pascal Siakam or Jaylen Brown to agree. So in light of that, what I want to do now is I want to move forward and see if we can maybe offer a contract to a guy who we might be able to do like a 1+1 with and get him for a decent price, and that is Joe Harris. Now, you saw Bryn Forbes on the last screen. That's a guy who I would really, really like to retain. I renounced the rights on DJ Augustine and Jalen Horde because I really don't feel like we need those guys. I don't feel like they fit. I would love to keep Bryn Forbes around. However, keep in mind, we do have Keldon Johnson, who had an amazing season in his rookie year. We've got Avery Bradley for defensive purposes, and we just drafted Anthony Edwards, who, like I said before, could end up being the next James Harden, or at least has a very, very high ceiling. So with that being the case, I think what we're going to do is that since Joe Harris is unrestricted, we're going to bring him in for a veteran presence, a guy who's one of the best shooters in the league. Percentage-wise, he was the best shooter in the NBA last season at 48.3% from three-point. That's ridiculous. He scored 13.6 points per game. This guy has been just a model of consistency from outside. I think he'd be an awesome addition to a team who already shoots the ball really well. Let's see if we can negotiate with him. So we're going to do a 1+1. And the reason that this works out a little bit better is because, yes, while I would love to have Jaylen Brown, he is kind of expensive. And I got to be honest with you, we are definitely going to be making a push this season But there's a couple of guys that I have my eye on that I suspect are going to be free agents going into next offseason, and I think that those guys could really put us over the top. So we do want to have some cap at our disposal so that we have options going in next season. So I think a 1+1 to Joe Harris is a perfect contract. Then that way we have the option of keeping him around next year if we choose to. So we're going to offer this up to him, and he agrees to that. All right, perfect. So even with the increased difficulty in the contract negotiations, we're able to get Sabonis and Joe Harris to agree to our contract so far. So I'm going to push us through free agency to the first day of the real free agency so that we can make sure that we've got agreements from these two guys. So let's go on and check. And we did. We got Sabonis and we got Harris. So everything is looking perfect so far. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and advance through free agency, but we are not done yet. We were able to bring in two guys that I think are really, really going to help our team. However, we're going to head out to the trade market and see if we can't make a deal or two to really solidify this team for our third season in the NBA. So we're going to hop into the trade finder, and as you guys know, one of our biggest pain points last season was rebounding, okay? Our inside defense in the paint is really good because of Jaren Jackson. He kind of anchors it down there. However, I think there's a guy that I have in mind. There's actually two guys that I have in mind, but we're going to start off with the first guy that I have in mind. We got to find him first. I'm not exactly sure what team he's on right now. And here he is. So DeAndre Jordan, who has 1 year left on his contract, and it looks like he's got a, what is that? That's a team option. Yep. So he's got a team option left. $12.75 million a year. We don't even have to keep him around next season if we don't want to. However, a lot of you guys commented and said that you thought it'd be a good idea for us to go after Hassan Whiteside in free agency. This is a guy who I think is not only a cheaper option, but like I said, we don't have to keep him around beyond this season if we don't want to, and we have the option of keeping him if we choose to. With him getting up there in age, I think that he'll start to decline probably at some point pretty soon. But let's see what the Kings are expecting to get back for DeAndre Jordan. So they're willing to give us DeAndre Jordan for a 2024 first-round pick. So this is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go to the trade finder, and I'm going to see if we might be able to sweeten this deal a little bit. And because we're going to bring in Jordan, I am going to see if I can move Brook Lopez for some sort of pick that we can flip for DeAndre Jordan. And right off the bat, the Hawks are willing to give us a 2024 first-rounder for Brook Lopez. Let's see here if anything better. Wow, JaVale McGee, huh? Okay, he'd be a good fit, but he's getting up there in age as well, and he's starting to decline. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do this trade for Brook Lopez to the Hawks for a 2024 first-round pick. So now we're going to go back and we're going to propose a trade to the Kings to bring in DeAndre Jordan. Well, we're going to sweeten the deal a little bit here. We're going to throw in Danny Green as well and see if we can get them to bite on Danny Green and a 2024 first-round pick unprotected via the Hawks. So they agree to the trade, and we are able to bring in DeAndre Jordan, and I think that is an awesome pickup for us. He's an amazing defender. He's an amazing rebounder, and he can even do, a little bit of scoring inside if he needs to. Of course, he's a lob threat all the time. But that now gives us the flexibility to either start Sabonis or Jaren Jackson at the 5, or to have Jaren Jackson still start at the 4, DeAndre Jordan at the 5, and have Sabonis as our 6th man off the bench. Now, there's one last loose end that we are going to have to tie up here, and that is the fact that we have 16 players on the team. And when I'm looking over this roster, there's a lot of guys that I have a lot of faith in. And this is going to be a tough decision because there's nobody on the roster that I don't like having. But I feel like the two odd men out on the squad are either going to be Rodions Kurucs or Myers Leonard, simply because we have plenty of guys at both of the forward positions. But Myers Leonard is a 7-foot guy who can block shots, stretch the floor with that amazing three-point shot. He's getting better at rebounding. And on top of that, I feel like Kurucs is going to have the better trade value. So we're going to see if we can't maybe flip Kurucs for like a future first-round pick or something like that. When I put him in the trade finder, the Utah Jazz actually offered us a 2021 protected first-round pick. But I'm going to see if we might be able to get an unprotected pick further in the future from them. Alright, so they agree to give us a 2023 unprotected first-round pick, so I think that works out perfect. So now we can move right on to player progressions, and as you guys can see, look at this. Jaren Jackson goes up to an 87 overall, two-way star. His inside scoring got better. His mid-range got a little bit better. His three-point got a little bit better. It seems like just all the way across the board, he got better. Ja Morant, your rookie of the year, went up to an 86 overall. He went up 5 points overall. So what a huge improvement for him. A lot like what we saw from Luka Doncic over the course of last season, where he went from like a 79 or 78 overall all the way up to an 87 overall. So an awesome year for him. You see Sabonis went up 2 overall to an 84. DeAndre Jordan, who's getting up there in age, went down to an 82 overall, but still very good player for us in the post. Monty Morris went from a 79 to an 80 overall, so I'm glad we kept him around. Anthony Edwards went up to a 79 overall from the 78, which is where we drafted him at. Not 100% sure why that happens with the rookies. Only thing I can really figure is that when they get into our system, some of their, attributes go up a little bit, but, that's really my only guess on that. But I'm 100% happy about it, though. So he's a 79 overall. Then we got Joe Harris, who stayed exactly the same. He stays at a 79 overall, but that three-point shooting, man, just phenomenal. We got Zubats, who stayed the same, which is kind of surprising. I'm surprised he didn't go up a little bit because he had a pretty good season last year. But then he also was injured for a good part of the season as well, so that could be part of it. We had Myers Leonard, who also didn't progress, but he also didn't go down at all. His rebounding went up, which is good news. Keldon Johnson, who was one of our biggest movers, went from a 73 overall to a 77 overall, so that's amazing progress for him. Avery Bradley, who some of us forget, he's still only 29 years old. He went up from a 76 to a 77 overall, so he's getting better, and that's a very much a welcome sight. Wagner, who didn't really play a whole lot, other than when Zubats was injured, he still was able to go up from a 75 to a 76 overall, so definitely awesome there. And then we've got another one of our rookies from last season, Darius Baisley, who is obviously outraged with us right now, but he's just oozing with potential. I will not give up on this guy. He's not happy because he spent a lot of last season in the G League, but of course we really want to develop him. We want to do it the right way with him. We didn't have a spot for him to play last year, but we're going to try to work him in a lot more this season. But just being in the G League brought him up from a 70 overall to a 75 overall. Now, it's showing him as a 70 overall because he's still showing as outraged, but we're going to try to get him happy with us and get him back on track. We've got our other first-round pick from this season, Khalil Whitney, who didn't move at all. So I'm not sure why Edwards did and Whitney didn't, but Whitney stayed the same. And then rounding things out, we've got the same thing with Mr. Sharif O'Neal, who didn't move at all. He's a 73 overall, which is where we drafted him at. So now we can move on to the All-Star City selection. Let's take a look. And that is extremely unfortunate, actually. So it looks like Mo Wagner broke his right ankle, presumably in the summer league, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So, that's definitely, not good news. However, it's only August 8th as it sits right now. So by the time the season starts, he probably will only be out for, another couple of weeks, if that. So that shouldn't be really all that big of an issue. We still should be able to work him in a little bit here and there throughout the season. Now we can move on to the All-Star City reveal, and as you can see, it's going to be in Chicago, Illinois for the 2020-2021 season. So that's going to be really cool. I'm hoping to have at least some of our guys participating, whether it's in the All-Star Game or some of the events. I'm hoping that we are going to have someone in these All-Star Game festivities this coming season. We'll skip past the 2K Hoop Summit and go straight to our training camps. And of course, we hired ourselves a new trainer, so we do have 3 training camps this season, which is very cool. So obviously, the first thing we're going for is we are going to go untapped potential on Mr. Anthony Edwards. He goes from an A to an A+, so that is absolutely phenomenal. We're going to do another untapped potential, but this time I want to use this one not on Khalil Whitney, but on Keldon Johnson, and I'll tell you why. Last season, I really wanted to get the opportunity to use one of these on him, but I wasn't able to because we only had 2, and I had the guys already set that I wanted to use them on. So that brings Keldon Johnson from a B to a B+. That's awesome. And then for the last camp, instead of using another untapped potential, since I'm so invested in Jaren Jackson, I'm going to use a big man offense on him this season because I am really pumped for him to continue to be the star of this team. So we're going to use that on him. So his post control, shot close, standing layup, driving layup, post hook, and post fadeaway all go up by 2 points. So I think that that's a perfect camp for Jaren Jackson Jr. So we have finished up with our training camps, and you already know what that means. You already know what time it is. It is time to advance to the 2020-2021 regular season and take a look at our upcoming schedule And I got to be honest, man, with the moves that we made, the draft picks that we were able to acquire, I could not be more ecstatic about this upcoming season. I mean, I think this is really when we are going to start to win some games and start to try to make a push toward the playoffs if everything goes right and the stars align for us. So let's go ahead and advance into the season. Are you sure you want to advance? Yes, we are. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek at our schedule. So just as I was hoping, we start the year with a home game. It is against the Detroit Pistons. I don't really know who's on their team. We'll take a quick look at that next episode. But I'll tell you what, we are going to play our home opener here against the Detroit Pistons. The last 2 seasons, our first game of the season were away games. We finally get to play a home game to start the season out. It shouldn't be too tough of a matchup, so we'll be able to ease our way into the 2020 season and hopefully start things off the right way with a W. So we're going to play that game against the Detroit Pistons, our home opener, in the next episode. However, before we end this episode, I do want to finish things off by giving you guys a complete recap of everything that happened in the offseason, where the big name free agents went, if there was any trades that went down, and everything like that. So I'll let you guys take a quick look over this list. I outlined some of the more important signings around the NBA, but you'll see at the top there, the ones that I found to be the most important were, of course, the Sixers re-signing Ben Simmons to a 5-year, $177 million contract. The Wizards picked up Danilo Gallinari on a 4-year, $133.3 million contract. But the most exciting signing of all of them is the one you see in the middle there, and that is the Brooklyn Nets signing Anthony Davis to a 4-year, $141 million contract. I planned on making a change if Anthony Davis signed to like an unrealistic team, but I think that the Brooklyn Nets are a 100% realistic destination for him in our universe, especially considering that the Lakers have so much of their money tied up in LeBron James and DeMarcus Cousins and guys like that. So I left this alone because I thought that it was a really, really awesome storyline, and I thought it was pretty realistic. But there was one situation in this offseason that we did actually intervene, and that was with the Kyrie Irving situation. Now, as you guys can see here, after a first-round exit from the playoffs last season and Anthony Davis declining his player option for this season, Kyrie Irving's morale is triggered at the moment on the Boston Celtics. So I put together a trade package that I thought was the most realistic, and that is the Celtics trading Kyrie Irving to the Indiana Pacers for Kemba Walker, a 2021 first-round pick, and a 2023 top 5 protected first-round pick. Now, the reason I thought that this was the most realistic is because, number one, Kemba Walker just signed with the Celtics in real life, and number two, in our universe here, there weren't a whole lot of other destinations for Kyrie Irving. However, everything worked out for the best because, as you guys can see here, his morale got much better after the trade. So after a crazy, awesome, exciting offseason with a lot of changes to a lot of different teams, including ours, we are going to jump into the 2020-2021 regular season in the next episode by playing the Detroit Pistons in our first game, our home opener. We get to try out some of our shiny new toys, including Anthony Edwards, Domantas Sabonis, DeAndre Jordan. It's going to be an awesome first game of the season. You guys already know that I can't wait for it. I hope to see you guys back with me for that one, but until then, I'll catch you guys next time.